You're muted.
It helps if you unmute me, Mr. Producer.
I
Good.
tried, but it wouldn't let me. Continue.
Try this a third time. Good evening, afternoon, whenever you happen to be listening, and welcome to Life is Like a Game Show, a presentation of the Not a Network Podcast Network, online at twitch.tv/Not a Network Pods, twitter.com/Not a Network Pods, and youtube.com/@Not a Network Pods. It's much easier now. I am your host. I am the casual game show enthusiast. I am also the voice of reason, allegedly. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, he is the HNIC of the NANP and the anchorman, the DSDO. He's Eric Watkins.
Ryan Espinosa will not be seen tonight? Question mark.
You know, he did this last week too, and then he popped up on us. So, like a pimple on prom night, he will show up. The question is when. Also, above me, and to your screen right, everybody, JTN Jonathan Nielsen.
Hey, everybody, we're back, and I'm ready to do some wheeling and dealing.
Okay, so I get the idea behind your name, your nickname gimmick, but really, man, really, Howie Mandel is disappointed in you.
Now, to be fair, it is actually brilliantly timed because Howie Mandel was just on The Masked Singer.
Wasn't there somebody else really famous that just got eliminated from that too, like the first week?
Yes, you've already had like 4 unmaskings this season.
Spoiler alert, usually on Wednesdays here on the Not a Network Podcast Network. Anyways, all right, so we continue our run through Game Show Marathon as we go back to episode 2. Brandy Roderick has already advanced, winning The Price is Right after taking down her showcase with a boat trip to Australia because, Jesus, Brandy, could you be any blonder?
Hey,
A boat and a trip to Australia. Yes, Jonathan?
it's June 1st, 2006. Take that into account.
It's also Baywatch Brandy at this point, too. I think Baywatch is still a thing, and if it's not, it's just recently no longer a thing in syndication. So
True.
They weren't hired for their brains, is all I'm going to say.
I mean, it do be facts, though.
I ain't lying. That said, the second episode in Game Show Marathon is Let's Make a Deal. And before we go to the non-credible academic resource, the other 5 participants on Game Show Marathon participate in Let's Make a Deal, with one exception, the aforementioned Brandy Roderick, who won Price is Right. And can I just say that she may have not been hired for her brains, but goddamn did she look hot in that cavewoman outfit.
America
Indeed. I feel like I need to put more bass in my voice when I do it. What was that, Mr. Watkins?
America!
Thank you very much. We now go to the non-credible academic resource, and we take you to Jonathan Nielsen.
So, let's make a deal. This show, one of the longest continuous running, including Price is Right in that regard.
Although technically not on air at this point.
No, but it made a presence in every decade since the 60s.
Indeed, and it would come back just 3 years later, I think we talked about last week.
2009, you got it on the money.
With everybody's new favorite dealer, Wayne Brady. Continue.
Yeah, so Monty Hall pretty much carried the show as we saw it in Game Show Marathon. We didn't get much of a format modification, if anything at all, except for one Zonk cameo we will get to later, because I got to save that one for the appropriate time on this show.
Okay, so there was technically one change in format that I do want to discuss, but we'll discuss it when we get to the gameplay discussion. Because I know it's not the case in the Wayne Brady version. I'm not sure if it was the case in the Monty Hall version or not. I don't remember 2 people going to the big deal before. We'll talk about that when we get there.
The big deal typically, and I believe there were some points early in the run of the show where the top number of people would go for the big deal. The big winner of the day got the first option, whether he wanted to go, he or she wanted to go for the big deal.
Which was what happened on this one. And again, we'll talk about that here in a few moments when we get to the gameplay from this particular episode.
All I will say about the big deal at this point is big deal is big.
I mean, $80,000 sports car.
$87,000, no, not million, $1,000 deal. Anyway, this ends the non-academic, not credible academic source.
Yeah, not really a whole lot to discuss here. We've covered Let's Make a Deal in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, go back to the archives for the big deal deep dive. Yeah, sure. Words.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the actual gameplay itself. And something that immediately stood out to me was, well, I appreciated the way Ricki handled the intro, like coming down the steps and doing the Monty Hall bit as she came down the steps there. One of the things that I did not like was her specifically mentioning the costume of the celebrity that she was looking for. It threw me off of the moment, because in the actual show, like, you see Wayne pick out the costumes that stand out to him. I feel like you could have done that just by picking out the costume rather than saying, I'm looking for a insert costume here.
Well, normally, and I'll say this, it's kind of a twofold with how Let's Make a Deal usually goes. It's either Wayne picking out the particular costumes that stand out to him, or something that Monty Hall always did, I'm looking for and not so much a costume, but something in particular. Like when this show was recreated at certain conventions by certain people on this network, a kind of a thing would be, I'm looking for someone with a foreign currency. Bam, first contestant.
Is that kind of like what they do for the quickie deals with the with the Wayne Brady version?
Ding!
Hey, look at me paying attention to the show.
Man, we need to pilot this show again.
The suit still fits, give or take.
Your suit still fits.
All right, Our opening dealer was the banana himself, Lance Bass. And Lance Bass played Check Game, which I do believe is actually a game that they even continue to this day on the current Wayne Brady iteration.
Originally Monty's Money Machine.
In this case, Ricky's Money Machine. Lance ends up stopping after 3 checks, wins $10,000. However, there were another, 7,000, I believe, in the check machine?
500, 1,500, 5,000, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so another $7,000 before he would have hit the bankrupt slip. Ricki then offers him the choice of keeping the cash or taking a curtain. Lance says he came to play, he came to take risks, so he goes for the curtain, and Lance wins a Lincoln Navigator. This becomes very important later. Yes, Mr. Nielsen.
There was another curtain, though, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're correct, but I don't remember what was behind it.
Indoors versus outdoors. You had the choice between curtain number 1 and curtain number 2.
Wasn't the indoor one a zonk?
The indoor curtain featured the first of a couple cameos, and I'll keep it clean, just saying, at least Gilbert Gottfried kept it in his pants. In the Suns. He was in a bathtub.
You know what? I gotta
give the man. But would it be inappropriate to say they saved the dirty jokes for later? Pow.
Screen share for a quick moment if you want a visual. There you have it. Nice, simple zonk.
Rub-a-dub-dub, it's a Gottfried in a tub. All right. So Lance ends up winning a Lincoln Navigator and sits in the top banana spot. No pun intended. Okay, pun partially intended.
Pun's always intended on this network.
I believe Leslie Nielsen was up next.
The doctor was in.
Yes, and the doctor ended up winning because Leslie did the match a price game, which again is another one that they still play to this day on Let's Make a Deal. And Leslie actually had a correct price in order to win the vehicle that he was playing for, but he ended up taking the smaller deal. It was a pair of motorcycles.
Pair of nice silver motorcycles.
He ended up taking the smaller deal, which was
Vespa.
$10,000 in a Vespa at the tail end, despite the fact that he would have ended up winning the two motorcycles. Is it just me, or did Leslie seem a little bit confused by all of this?
Teeny bit, yeah.
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen was no relation, by the way. I have to disclose that, of course. He's definitely getting up there in age at this point. And perhaps
I question how much.
Not exactly going 100%.
I genuinely hate to say this. I question how much of that was gimmick, how much of that was shtick, and how much of that might have been senility.
Yeah, that was very much a crapshoot in that case.
I nothing disrespectful to the legend that is Leslie Nielsen. Longtime fan, huge fan of the Naked Gun movies. Leslie actually made an appearance in my world at SummerSlam in 1994 for Taker versus Faker. So I am familiar with Leslie. I am a fan of Leslie's work. I've always been a fan of Leslie's work, but and may he rest in peace. However, if you ask me, and even going back to his appearance on the Price is Right version of Game Show Marathon there, not his best work. Apparently, we are being joined this evening.
Well, I see what you did there. Well played.
Well, welcome to the bottom row, Mr. Nielsen, and give that man a monkey. As is here. Is it just us, or did something seem off with Leslie Nielsen during Game Show Marathon? Mr. Espinosa, this is to you.
I didn't hear you. You started speaking before the monkey was over. I have no idea what you said.
All right, let's try this again then. Is it just us, or did it seem like something was amiss with Leslie Nielsen during Game Show Marathon? Because he seemed super confused while he was doing the pick a price game with Ricki for Let's Make a Deal.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't get a chance to go back and rewatch this episode before tonight, so I can't really say.
Watch his performance next week. I think it evidences itself more next week, actually.
I don't remember anything being particularly off about Leslie Nielsen, so take that for whatever credit you will.
I question how much of it is shtick and how much of it is senility.
Because does ride that line.
Leslie's character, Leslie's persona, public persona, has always been kind of aloof, kind of out there, kind of in his own cloud. I mean, even going back to his wrestling appearance. So it would make sense that he's straddling that line even here on GSM, although this is probably one of his last major public appearances, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure it was, now that I think about it.
All right, we'll come back to Leslie here in a few moments. We now move on to Paige Davis.
Leslie Nielsen, Canadian actor who we lost in November of 2010. So probably.
Yeah, one of those last ones.
I would imagine probably one of his last credits on his filmography on Wikipedia. If Mr. Non-Credible Academic Resource would like to check that, he is more than welcome to do so. We are going to move on, however.
I've got his page, actually, if you want to give me a moment.
All right, well, while you're doing that, we will continue the discussion of the show. You can chime in here in a few moments. Mr. Watkins.
I have it pulled up, like, right now.
Well, then make it snappy.
After this, February 2007, small role as a doctor in Doctorology.
Never heard of that.
Showcased real-life medical techniques and technology on Discovery Channel. Seemed a pretty straight-laced role there. Started the drama Music Within in 2007. 2008 portrayed a version of Uncle Ben for a superhero movie, spoof of superhero films. 2008 parody American Carol. 2009 parody Stan Helsing. And he also portrayed this doctor in the Spanish movie spoof like scary movie, but making fun of Spanish films.
So not a whole lot of mainstream film or television appearances for him after this.
Niche appearances, pretty much.
Yeah, one-offs.
I mean, you could argue that Leslie. I mean, you don't even have to argue. Leslie Nielsen was typecast as a parody actor or a parody comedy or comedian. Thank you.
I mean, going all the way back to the Naked Gun movies, yeah.
Legally deaf or wore hearing aids most of his life. I actually did not know that. That
Go ahead,
might
Brian.
be the source.
As I was saying,
which explained his behavior on the show.
Let Brian talk.
Oh,
let the man cook. Trust us.
I forgot my train of thought. Move on.
All right. If it comes back to you, let me know, and I'll come back to you for it. All right. Let's move to Paige Davis, shall we? Because I do believe she is the next up on the cavalcade. Because I believe Tim Meadows was the last of the four.
He was.
Of
Paige
the five.
Davis as Little Bo Peep.
Did Kathy and Jimmy not make a deal? I'm just now realizing that.
I believe Kathy Najimy was already automatically qualified, and she was just there so she wouldn't get fined like certain other people on this show right now.
You know what?
Paige Davis has a chance to win either a box of Mentos or some kind of mint thingies. I don't remember if they were Mentos specifically.
Altoids, the curiously strong mints.
I knew they were some kind of mint. Or she could go for curtain number 3. And then curtain number 2. And then curtain number 1. And the entire time she sticks with her box of Altoids, becoming, me and Eric were talking about this before we came on air, maybe one of the first people ever in the history of Let's Make a Deal to miss out on 3 brand new cars. Not 1 car, not 2 cars, but 3 brand new cars.
Three brand new vehicles.
She missed her chance at triple play. Oh wait, that was last week.
Wrong show. Still monkey worthy though.
It doesn't matter what I say. I'm outvoted regardless.
Apparently, I'm racking in the monkeys today.
She ends up keeping her Altoids and ends up having a check inside of said Altoids for $3,500, I believe it was.
$3,500.
Yes, Mr. Nielsen.
She also missed out on something else. Or didn't recall a certain night with a screen share. A rather sheepish gentleman in the front row. So,
where are you going with this?
Okay, so there was a bit on the show where Paige Davis was dressed as Little Bo Peep. She had her dog with her. The dog was dressed as a sheep. And a couple of rows in front of them, there was that gentleman, the aforementioned screen share, who was also dressed as a sheep. And Paige Davis made the joke stating that I don't remember our time together, sir. I'm sorry.
To which Ricki Lake drops her talk show reference, which
says this is sounding more and more like the Ricki Lake show.
Again, cleverly timed moment, especially for that time frame.
And I will give Paige Davis credit for that too, because Paige Davis's claim to fame during this era comes from reality television, specifically the Trading Spacious Home Improvement show. So the comedic timing from Miss Davis there was actually rather impressive.
the cheap plug is what I don't appreciate.
Yeah, that's Ricki Lake for you. We'll get to her in a few moments.
Look, I mean, have we
Family show, Watkins.
I wasn't even going to go that route if you would let me finish. Have we not learned anything from cheap plugs? But if you want to find out more about cheap plugs, you can go ahead and tune into Point of Viewer Sunday night on the Not a Network podcast network.
For the Deal series, start of every month.
I'm not getting involved in the chicanery.
Family show!
Or you catch us all going at each other in 4 seconds.
Message received.
Well, as you can see from my current Chiron, family adjacent show. All right, back to it. Tim Meadows is the last of the 4 that does participate, and Tim Meadows ends up participating with 2 actual audience members.
Approved.
Which I did appreciate. I like the idea of working in multiple people into the gimmicks there, and I think that's something that would have been nice for Game Show Marathon as a whole in order to work random people in as well. Now, granted, with Beat the Clock, which is coming up next week, that's more of an individual stunt show, so that's fine in and of itself. And then obviously Press Your Luck, which is in 2 weeks, is a person versus person versus person match, which is when we get down to 3 to determine the last person advancing to the semifinals of Game Show Marathon. So, but I do think that Press Your Luck, or not Press Your Luck, Let's Make a Deal and Price is Right, you could have worked in audience member participation for both of those ones in order to help increase the ante and make it more valuable for the people in the audience. Though Paige Davis did win an MP3 player for the people at home in week 1. And then we did see some people participating here in week 2 as part of Tim Meadows' deal. Yes, Mr. Espinosa.
Depending on the version of Beat the Clock we're talking about here, there were couples or duos.
There were
challenges, so you could technically work in audience participation there as well.
You are technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
I would argue that the audience participation gig would have definitely been would have made the price format a lot better than what it ended up being, because then you write it off as normal people playing with the celebrity, but the celebrity is the one that advances in the tournament, and maybe you give the audience member whatever it is they win in the pricing game, along with the person at home getting the opportunity to take everything away. But for that to happen in Let's Make a Deal is completely, that doesn't surprise me one bit, because there's been several times in the old Monty Hall version of, closer to the beginning, where Monty Hall would be having 3, 4, 5-way trades going on. So
where he would start with one person.
Let's Make a Deal is probably the most suited.
I would argue of the first 4, it's definitely the most cohesive towards fan participation. To your point about the celebrities in Price is Right, we often see that in current day's Price is Right, where a celebrity participant will come up onto the Drew Carey version of the show and help the
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Help the contestants with their pricing games, and then whatever those contestants win would be donated as a cash donation to the celebrity in question's charity of choice.
Yeah, that's something that Drew Carey definitely started, because I think it happened. I think I'm not even 100%.
I don't recall it under the Barker era.
50% sure about this, but I think it happened once under the Barker era.
If you got a celebrity cameoing on a Barker Price, it was to plug their own show, which was usually right before or right after it on most of those CBS networks.
Ding!
Including Bill Cullen coming out sitting on the couch being ridden on the Price is Right train.
The prize choo-choo, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Back to
child play.
Wasn't there a time that he came out on the turntable as well? I remember somebody came out on the turntable and they were
plastered to the wall of the turntable.
Wall of the turntable. I don't remember who it was, but
I think that was a Bob entrance once. Anyway.
All right, back to the Tim Meadows appearance here on Let's Make a Deal. Meadows is joined by two female audience members on either side of him, and they have the opportunity to buy one of 3 boxes. They're each given $2,000 in cash. They each have an opportunity to buy a box for $1,000. There's a first box, a second. Yes, that is what Ricki did as she handed out the cash. The first box was $1,000. The second box was $1,000. The third box was $1,000. So you could buy any of the 2 of the 3 boxes that you wanted, but that would have left you with no cash, or you could have held on to your money. The one audience lady bought the first audience lady, Tanya, I think her name was, bought the first box, The second audience lady, I don't remember her name, but she bought the second box, and that was the Gilbert Gottfried. The first one was a notebook, a notebook computer, similar to what I'm doing this particular podcast on, although much more expensive back in those days. I can guarantee you, I paid about a tenth of that for this one.
Dude, you were getting a deal.
A $2,000 Dell.
Dated reference is dated.
That's kind of the point. I wasn't even
denied.
aiming for one.
So the second one was Dirty Jokes, the Gilbert Gottfried DVD. You already used your Gilbert.
I consider that an actual bona fide prize.
That is my seal of approval for the prize, not for anything else. And I swear to God, if he does it again, I'm walking.
To be fair, the notebook computer that was right before it was worth $2,300. The Gilbert Gottfried DVD was $15. I'd say they got screwed. Anyways, the third one was a pair of his and hers Rolex watches.
Yeah, but what if... Sorry, I was drinking there. What if Gilbert signed the DVD afterward and then they got to walk out of the studio with it?
Yeah,
that, I'd say, is priceless.
Yeah, but what if the thumb was covering the signature?
You beat me to the joke, you rat bastard. Because I was...
For those of you who are not getting the Gilbert Gottfried references, go back to the Memorial episode. You'll be in stitches the whole episode.
Go ahead, do your thing. There you go. All right. So Tim Meadows wins the Rolex watches, the his and hers Rolexes. And then all three of them are afforded an opportunity to trade what they've already won for what's behind the curtain. Oh, no, it was a big box. Sorry.
Yeah,
It is the rarely seen, visual please, box number 4.
By question, Brandy Sherwood. Interesting backstory there. We'll talk about that in a few moments. I did my research for this particular episode.
Very rare you see box 4 curtain 4.
Harry's doing more research than me. This kind of scares me.
To be fair,
Harry had time when he was awake this morning, so it worked out. Meadows ends up holding on to his Rolexes. The lady that won the notebook, I think, kept her notebook. I do believe the other one went for the box. I don't remember what was behind box number 4, however.
I could tell you who was behind box number 4. He didn't keep it clean this time.
I'm assuming there's a clip coming.
There is a visual share ready to go. Because someone needed a diaper change.
I said you get one. Come back, Brian. I'm handling this. I said you get one. You're in timeout, sir. Mute his microphone.
Oh.
He's officially on a 2-minute minor. 4 seconds coming back to the Not a Network Podcast Network next week.
It never left. We just took a week off.
That's why I said it's coming back.
Why would it be coming
Hey,
back?
don't call it a comeback, all right?
We've been here for years, putting suckers in tears.
I'm not drunk enough for this shit. Thankfully, I have an alcoholic beverage that I have just made right in front of me.
I will 100% swing at an LL Cool J reference. All right, moving forward. So that takes us to our big deal of the day.
I'm not mad at the LL Cool J reference. I appreciate the LL Cool J reference.
I mean, I also know that.
Unfortunately, there are no more LL Cool J references. Except for that one. And again, I'm not drunk enough for this shit. But hey, alcoholic beverage.
Well, I do hear ladies love Cool James Smith.
I mean, he does drink and he knows things over here, so.
All right, his 2-minute minor is over.
That is my official title on this network, and don't you forget it.
So worth it.
Drinker and knower of things.
Yes.
I feel like that's what your box should say. Yeah. Anywho, we go to the big deal of the day. A big deal of the day worth $87,000 and some odd dollars, like $87,034. I think it ended up coming out to. Paige Davis and Leslie Nielsen participate because Paige gives up Paige Davis, because Lance Bass declines because he decides to keep his Lincoln Navigator, which is worth like $50,000. Which, can I just say that I actually really liked this twist? The fact that Bass sat out, because it made sure that either somebody was going to grab the big deal or Bass was going to send himself to Champions Row.
Great strategy on Lance Bass's part.
Absolutely agreed. And we'll talk about that more when we give our final rating for the episode.
It's not often you saw that in regular Deal or No Deal either. So it was definitely a swerve.
He's tired. Let him have this one. Let's make a deal.
I said it was definitely a swerve. What did I
You
say?
said Deal or No Deal.
I did say Deal or No Deal, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. It's okay.
Oh, my gimmick.
It's okay. That actually was his gimmick when he first signed on. So this is where I took issue with the show, because like we were talking about earlier, I don't remember two people playing for the big deal before, and I know it's never happened in the Wayne Brady era. So this threw me when I saw her pick two, because I was sitting there thinking Lance Bass is a genius. If there's only one person picking, they're going to have a 1 in 3 chance of getting something that's worth more than $50,000. Because there's no way there's going to be two curtains in the big deal that are worth more than $50,000. Not a chance.
Right.
No chance in hell, you could say.
You're pushing your luck.
2 weeks.
That's a
4 seconds.
That's 2
right.
minutes for bad pun usage.
Anyways. All right, that legit popped me. Son of a bitch, Espinosa. All right, back to it. So I was thinking that Bass was a genius not going for the big deal, because I was thinking it was going to be a 1 in 3 opportunity, but instead there were 2 in 3 opportunity. Yada, yada, yada. Anyways. So Leslie Nielsen and Paige Davis end up selecting, and I believe Paige Davis. You guys are going to have to help me because I'm spacing on the 2 big deals that were won.
All right, I'd mute him.
I know Nielsen has this pulled up. Was one of them the refrigerator with the cakes? No, that was what was behind Kurt. That was one of the big deals. It was a brand new refrigerator, because it was like that flamethrower refrigerator. And that had the built-in freezer underneath it, and then it had a year's supply of ice cream cakes from Cold Stone Creamery, which, by the way, Cold Stone Creamery is the shit. What was the other one that was won? Oh, the dining room set.
Mm-hmm. Dining room sets were a staple in the big deal back in the Monty Hall era.
Go ahead, Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen picked door number 1.
That was the dining room set.
Door number 2.
Door number 2 was the refrigerator with the ice cream cakes. And then behind door number 3 was...
Big deal today.
Was it Turtle Wax? No. There was something car related before the car itself.
I don't think it was exactly...
GPS system.
GPS system.
And then the Dodge Viper, which was worth like $80,000, like $85,000 for the Viper.
Can you give me just a moment of silence as I hear what the value of the kitchen, the dining room set is?
Yes.
$1,352.
Okay.
Which is less than Leslie won during the normal gameplay, ironically enough. Because he had that moped, the Vespa, and the $10,000 in cash.
And then the dining room set atop that was...
He gave up the dining room set or the Vespa and the $10,000 to participate in the big deal.
No, there was more for...
Yeah, that wasn't the deal total. The deal total is...
Oh, because this includes like the China and stuff. because that includes like the china and the cabinetry and
Yeah.
stuff. All right, so then it was the refrigerator behind the second curtain, and then the unpicked one was the GPS system and the Dodge Viper that had our the
luggage,
GP.
glasses, the African Safari.
Boy, is that familiar.
16,000. Sorry, I've got the video going in the background.
Okay, so while he's finishing that back off, I missed the refrigerator. That refrigerator was cool. And I could go for some ice cream cake. All right, anyways. So Gilbert Gottfried makes his third and final appearance of the show in the final big deal, and what would have been the big deal, as he is sitting backseat passenger in the Dodge Viper.
He's in the driver's seat.
How
No,
do
he
you
wasn't.
sit? You can't sit backseat passenger in a Dodge Viper.
Street share.
Maybe I missed. You have to remember, it was 4. Okay, he was in the front seat. It was 4 a.m. in the morning when I watched this.
Look, if anybody of any of us knows anything about sports cars or particularly fast-moving vehicles, it is this guy over here to my right, okay?
To be fair, a family friend of mine when I used to live up in New York actually owned a Viper. That's a funny story as to how that car met its end. More on that on another show.
Coming soon to a future episode of the Nielsen ratings.
Ding!
Regardless, so nobody wins the big deal. Nobody wins the $87,000. And Lance Bass is your top banana. Pun completely.
Don't forget the 99 cents, because apparently they made Rich Fields say it.
He also had to say like the 50 cents on something earlier in the show as well.
Always.
They did not round up to the nearest dollar on this show.
Let's make a deal. Never did.
Someone should tell them the price is wrong. Anyways, back to it. So Lance Bass ends up advancing over to Champions Row next to Brandy Roderick, who had just previously won The Price is Right. I'm curious as to whether or not they filmed anything with Kathy and Jimmy for Let's Make a Deal, and then it got edited out for time. Let's not forget she was also dealing with the broken toe, because she was not qualified for Champions Row at that point. The only person that had qualified for Champions Row at that point was Brandy Roderick from winning Price is Right. Kathy ended up runner-up in Price is Right, but was not a participant in Let's Make a Deal. I'm curious as to why that was. Thus, wrapping up your episode summary for Game Show Marathon, Let's Make a Deal. Yes, Mr. Espinosa.
I was actually moving the microphone, but that's perfect because I was going to say something anyways.
You looked ready to talk.
I think that the Jimmy sat Let's Make a Deal out, for lack of a better term, because of the physicality of it. I don't want to give out spoilers, but Najimy will win a future episode.
So you would think, if anything, that for her to sit out, that it would have been
Because of the toe.
Yeah, you would think, if anything, she'd sit out the stunt show, beat the clock instead.
I didn't say that she didn't sit out the stunt show tomorrow.
Unsure if she said
Next week here on Life is Like a Game Show.
Or next week, or you know what I mean.
It's on YouTube, folks. Find it for yourselves.
I mean, yeah, if you want to watch it ahead of us, that way you can join our discussion, twitch.tv/NotaNetworkPods, youtube.com/@NotaNetworkPods. We'd love to have you join the conversation.
Or you could do even one better and go to twitter.com/NotaNetworkPods, where you can find the link to our official Discord.
And if you got a problem with that, like Harry does, you can send your hate mail.
Who do I send hate mail to?
Yourself.
Self? This is some bullshit!
Put the thing down.
We've prepared.
There are two things we have yet.
No. Your hate mail is technically supposed to go to him it comes to me, and that's why I ducked, because I ain't in the mood for no hate mail right now.
All right. So a couple of small things to discuss about the show here. One of the most interesting things to me that we haven't discussed already, one of the most interesting things to me is who the Price is Right model is that ends up filling in for the Let's Make a Deal portion of the show, and that's Brandy Sherwood. Brandy Sherwood would become famous 3 years later when she is fired from the Price is Right for allegedly getting pregnant, and proceeds to sue the Price is Right for firing her while she was pregnant, and proceeds to win quite a bit of money doing so from getting fired from the Price is Right. Something to the tune of $8.2 million, according to the... Y'all have fun with that. According to the TMZ article that was listed on the Wikipedia archive.
Yeah.
See,
We sadly did not get a cameo from Carol Merrill.
See, I can Wikipedia research too, pal.
Yeah. Eric, though, I have a question for you.
This gimmick infringing mother.
How much did that car go for on that episode of The Price is Right in 1972?
I actually looked this up and I know the answer now.
Who's our big winner?
No way.
Espinoza. It was A.
It was a
$3,621.
Drinker and knower of things. Yeah.
Apparently, drinker and knower of car prices.
Again, fast cars. Him.
So that takes us to this particular sweepstakes at home. Go ahead, Mr. Nielsen. I'm queuing you up.
Share the screen. We're going back to 1972 again.
Is it behind the big deal behind curtain number 1, curtain number 2, or curtain number 3? You'll find out next week here on Life is Like a Game Show.
I have not been spoiled on this one.
Wasn't there
I
little
have no
bit
idea.
more of a setup for this, though?
No.
No, it played
72.
It played Monty Hall clip introducing the big deal. He introduced the 3 curtains, and Rich Fields asked us which one of the 3 curtains had the big deal on this particular episode. I'm going 3.
Yeah, no, they literally said, is it 1, 2, or 3? There's no context. There's not even a, what is the big deal? It's literally random guess.
Uh-huh.
All we know
Now,
is the year is 1972. That's all we know.
Here's something interesting.
Pull the screen share. We need your predictions real quick.
Yeah, we're about that. Hold on a moment. Read the fine text. And for those of you who may have shitty eyesight, I'll read it for you. There is a maximum of 10 text messages per phone number, 20 entries total.
The CBS website.
99 cents per text plus standard messaging rate supply.
That wasn't what I was trying to highlight.
10 messages per phone number, 20 entries total. The other 10 were on the CBS website.
The point is, it's literally, all right, here you go. Here's 20 tries. Random guess it. Hopefully you get it right.
Pull the thing for a second. I actually think the idea behind that is you could send in like 3 for each and then 4 for another one if you wanted to join in. It was a cash grab. It was an at-home cash grab is what it was. Because
again, 99 cents per text message. You send in 10 per number. That's almost $10 right there.
$9.90 to be specific.
Exactly. And the fact that they included the website because it was 2006. You still had more people who had landlines than you did cell phones at that time.
You could have sent that text to 22788.
Number no longer in service. Please do not attempt. I did do the math. True story.
It might be still in service, but you probably
not
are
that service.
CBS, yeah.
So Nielsen says 2. I say 3. What do you got, Brian?
They aren't going to make it the same thing twice. That would be hashtag rigged.
My logic is 3 because the big deal for this episode was behind curtain number 3.
I am literally just going to random guess between 2 and 3 and say 2.
I will be on the island and I will pick number 1.
Because it was A last week, right? So they wouldn't do the same thing twice, lest, short run series, they get accused of rigging.
Damn you, Battlehawks.
So I don't think it's door number 1. I'm going to say door number 2.
All right. Stay tuned to next week's episode of Life is Like a Game Show to find out.
Although I'm going to laugh if it is door number 1 because everybody's going to be like, oh, we knew it was door number 1 because Carol's standing in front of door number 1 in the photo.
Carol always stands in front of door 1, though.
All right, gentlemen. So that brings us to our next particular subplot for this show here. Ricki Lake is host. I got to tell you guys, I actually thought she did a much better job with Let's Make a Deal than she did with Price is Right. I think that she paid service to Monty Hall without actually trying to impersonate Monty Hall, which was Brian's big bitch last week, and I was kind of right there with him about that. And I think that she was able to play off of the ridiculousness around her with the different silly costumes and the idea behind it. The only thing that I didn't care for, and I said this at the start of the show, is I didn't care for her specifically looking for the costume that each of the celebrities was stating. I think she would have been much cooler if she would have just picked you and the person was hiding behind a sign. Because all the celebrities had signs. So that person, I want the banana, give me the cop, give me the doctor, give me little Bo Peep.
If it wasn't for the more specific, we have these people competing, I would be right there with you as far as that extra element of randomness. However, you knew going in, all right, this is your batch of contestants for the entire run. So you kind of had to work that in, not quite the best organic way, but well done given the situation. And to your point, Harry, about playing off the ridiculousness of everything around her, she was more in her element because she could treat that more like an episode of her talk show.
Similar to what she said about the guy that Paige Dayfris referenced.
Yes.
Exactly.
Cheap show plug is cheap, but factually accurate in this particular situation. I gave Ricki a 3 for her job hosting Price is Right. I'm actually going to give her a 7 for Let's Make a Deal. I thought she did a very good job with this one. I don't think that she would have translated as well to the show as Wayne Brady has held up, because I think Wayne Brady has significantly more charisma, significantly better timing, and his interactions with Jonathan Magnum are stuff of Let's Make a Deal legend at this point, because those two work so well together. It's hard to imagine the reboot of Let's Make a Deal working without them. But Ricki more than held her own here.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, you had that dynamic in the old days of Monty and Jay Stewart carrying the box.
I'm getting a look from Espinoza. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so Wayne Brady was an actual comedian where Ricki Lake was not.
Ding.
And
this show lends itself to comedy.
To the point of Jonathan Magnum, Wayne Brady handpicked Magnum to be a sidekick for that show.
Ding.
Makes
Monty
sense.
produced his own freaking show, which was unheard of in the 60s. He called all the shots. He called his own budget. He could do whatever he wanted hosting that show. Free, complete reign. You don't get that shit anymore.
See, I would imagine that Brady was afforded much the same overall in terms of the direction of the show, though.
Not in the beginning.
Maybe more so now that they realize
that it's pretty much the second crown jewel behind
higher
Price is
budget,
Right.
but not full autonomy.
Exactly. You still got top brass calling the shots. It's just we're giving you more money.
He is. I disagree. Wayne Brady with Let's Make a Deal Now is Bob Barker with The Price is Right in the early 2000s when All American Television bought him.
Expand,
Bob is
please,
the
sir.
executive producer.
Brady is
Bob-
listed as an executive producer on Let's Make a Deal.
Bob literally, what he says on the show goes. The show makes a mistake. He makes a mistake. Anything happens that Bob doesn't like. They come back from commercial break. Hey, XYZ messed up. We're giving them the car.
That's more of an S&P thing. Also, Hados Hall Productions.
There is a limit to what S&P will force somebody to do, and then there is circumstances where Bob's like, you know what? Have it anyway.
So it's like the anti-Wheel of Fortune is what you're telling me. Because Pat Sajak's kind of turned into a douche.
Like, there's been some times where one, and I literally mean insignificant thing, was off in either the reading of a car, the explanation of a rule, whatever. And
No, continue. I know what that was irrelevant.
I am holding a statement that will not hold up under scrutiny. Continue.
I'm so
Go ahead.
What is going on this show now?
I'm watching the XFL.
Oh. Damn it, I lost my train of thought again.
I have a statement that will not hold up well under scrutiny.
And then I can regain back that train of thought.
Your train of thought was that it could be the littlest of things in the way a card was read.
Yeah. I've seen plenty of Price is Right episodes from the 90s and early 2000s right now. Because again, deep Price is Right YouTube hole is deep. Family adjacent show.
Giggity.
I appreciate you guys not jumping on that. Thank you. Where Bob is like, yeah, you know what? I don't like how that went. We screwed that up, even though you didn't realize we screwed that up. We're giving you the prize anyway. And with Bob's level of control he had in the show, he was allowed to make that decision. There isn't some, network stooge from CBS or All American Television or whatever, backstage in the control room saying, yeah, no, they lost, we're moving on. And Brady, I think, is at that same level of control. And at some point, when you have a guy that works in a very dynamic show like Let's Make a Deal, and he's proven himself to be successful for the amount of time that he's been there, which is coming up on 20 years.
Coming up on 15.
15, 20, close enough.
That at some point you pretty much just say, all right, look, you've proven yourself trustworthy. You know how to run the show. You're not going to screw us over. Yeah, we'll give you the executive producer title. We'll allow you to make those kind of decisions.
I am about 95% certain Wayne Brady is listed as an executive producer.
I don't know. I'm 100% certain he's listed as an executive producer now. But to the original point, he definitely wasn't when the show first started. That is true. He had to work his way up into that position.
Mr. Watkins. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
To fully circle back around and get us somewhat back on topic, though, I'm just going to go ahead and segue this into my rating of Ricki Lake here. Is while Ricki Lake did significantly better here than she did hosting The Price is Right, I think you have to take into consideration, one, the bar standard that Ricki Lake was trying to reach or meet. Albeit, I'm not saying this at all as a slight to Monty Hall. Monty Hall was an amazing great. He's a legend in his own right for his own reasons. But he is not the gold. He was not the gold standard that was Bob Barker.
I would agree with that. It's not as high of a bar to clear.
we have all said on this show in one way or another that The Price is Right is at least in our top 5 of best rated game shows of all time.
It's on the Mount
Just-
Rushmore, yes.
Despite
It's-
however rancid your brackets may be.
It's on the Mount Rushmore for all of us, right? So, as much as you may try to remove personal bias from that, then you can't, because at the end of the day, if you're that loyal, if you're that much of a loyal friend and true to the show, as much personal bias as you may try to remove, there's still going to be some there. Therefore, the bar that Ricki Lake has to clear is going to be significantly higher.
In fact, it's going to be too damn high.
In fact, the amount of interruptions are too damn high.
I would say that's too much, Nielsen. Mr. Watkins, your opinion on the Ricki Lake?
I'm sorry. I got to give my number rating. I'm on a final thought right now. I just keep getting interrupted.
My bad. Continue.
Yeah, of course we finally bring out the shy run when everybody realizes what's going on. So Ricki Lake did better, but I feel like she had a lower bar to clear for her to be perceived as doing better. I don't think, and I agree with whoever said it, because I'm sorry, I don't have a memory tonight. My short-term memory is still fried. Or not awake yet. Take your pick. That Ricki Lake would not have translated well to the current Let's Make a Deal. I don't think that's for a lack of experience. I think, she can, somebody else, I think it was you, Harry, that mentioned, she's taking this as, correlating it to experience from the Ricki Lake show, which I think at this point is in the reboot now Ricki, just Ricki. But Ricki Lake did better, but to me, this is still not anything to write home about. But my rating of her does go up, and I'm going to give her that 6 average, that high average score.
Mr. Watkins, your rating for Ricki Lake as the host of Let's Make a Deal?
I mean, especially for, let's face it, with that one time the moment, but her otherwise, as it's been brought up previously, lack of comedy chops, doing well, working with the flow, being within herself, and again, correlating that to her more natural environment of a talk show, I'm going to give it an 8. Lot of room for improvement, yes, but for something like this, for the special circumstance, she took it and did much, much better with this.
Mr. Nielsen, you wrap us up for Ricki Lake's performance.
First, I have a statement that might not stand up well under scrutiny. As Sajak was mentioned earlier.
By me.
I would almost hazard to say Pat Sajak is the new, yes, I'm going this level, Mike Richards.
Not even close.
The man's Twitter over the past week. Again, a statement that will not stand up well.
Not even close to the level of douchebaggery Richards reached.
Your statement was bad. Your sample size was inadequate, and you should feel bad.
I award you 0 points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Did I ever claim to be a statistician? I usually defer that kind of number crunching. I don't do that math.
No, I was doing the full Futurama reference because your statement was that bad.
All right, back to it, please.
Brady was a co-executive producer of LMAD from 17 through 18, 144 episodes, courtesy of IMDb. Yes, I did the research real fast. Ricki Lake did not have a high bar to clear, as was mentioned. I think the way she handled the show was actually very good, putting some of that talk show improving to use, albeit cheap pop introduced. And it was more so a proof of concept. Does the show still last today? The answer was yes, albeit not with her as the host. But overall, I actually give her an 8, a solid B.
So you're in my camp. Nice.
8, 16, 22, 29 divided by 4. 7.25. Not bad.
Ding.
She passes.
I did the math in my head real quick. I'm stealing Watkins' gimmick is what's happening over here. All right, now for the show itself. How do you think the show's recreation of Let's Make a Deal was? I actually feel like between the two, I feel they were much more representative to Let's Make a Deal than they were to Price is Right. I think that the format worked better here. I think that the participants were more accurately portrayed, although, again, I question the senility of one Leslie Nielsen. We'll talk more about that later on in the game show marathon, I'm sure. But overall, outside of the blatant pandering towards the specific people that she wanted, with the people in costumes, you obviously had to do that in order to get those people on stage. I think other than that, they stayed pretty well and true to the Monty Hall format of Let's Make a Deal. This was very enjoyable for the hour that it ran. I have about like 42 minutes after commercial breaks and everything. I'm giving it a 7.5.
Okay.
Mr. Nielsen, since you went last on Ricki, why don't you go first here on overall show grade?
They also took a lesson. I agree with everything you said, for once.
It's rare, but it happens.
It does happen every once in a while, believe it or not.
Blind squirrel finds a nut, you know.
Buffalo and Jets fans agree. This sometimes happens, usually involves the Patriots and mutual hatred thereof.
Fuck them. Continue.
I give it a 7.5. I think Ricki did better to host than the show came off. But the one thing they really did improve on, they didn't over-mention the charity aspect like they did in the first episode. That helped the organic flow go a lot better.
And I credit a lot of that to the fact that this was the second night in a row because this ran over a Sunday through Monday situation. So I think the fact that they knew that a lot of the people watching Let's Make a Deal were the same people that had watched the previous night for The Price is Right, so they didn't feel the need. The only person whose charity they specifically mentioned was Brandy Roderick because she was already up in Champions Row and had no reason to participate in the Let's Make a Deal format. Mr. Watkins, scale of 1 to 10 for the actual episode itself.
I'm actually going to give it a 9 because if you look at Monty Hall, everything like throughout his run, what they did with this episode with about that very minor tweaks, and let's be honest, the fact that it still translated so well, so quickly with that kind of notice that a couple of years later we have Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady. It served as what nobody expected to, but ended up being a very good, albeit brief transition. And that's what you would always want with shows like this.
Soft pilot?
I was just about to say backdoor pilot to a relaunch for Let's Make a Deal, although they ended up not going with Ricki as the host.
I'm not gonna. I see the face. I'm not gonna.
Family show.
Okay. Oh, again, message received. Dear Jeebus.
Sammy is unavailable tonight. He apologizes.
Look, you can stop now. My God. You're not going to stop, are you?
Next.
You know that there is an upcoming topic on this. How dare you infer that there is an upcoming topic on this?
All right, Mr. Espinoza, you're the last of the four of us. Your overall show rating for Let's Make a Deal Game Show Marathon Edition.
Bad enough that interrupted research face. and y'all say I don't pay attention during the research phase.
You paid attention at that moment, you cheapest.
Only when he wants to pay attention during a research phase. All right, scale of 1 to 10, where do you fall?
No, I hear everything that goes on during research phase. Y'all just act like I don't. Whatever. Again, I think at the end of the day, it's average. It's a summer game show, ratings filler. Ricki Lake does better, but my thoughts on the backdoor pilot thing coming at the end of this series. I'm going to give this episode another 6.
Harsh rating is harsh. 15, 24, 30, 7.5 overall. So slightly.
I think it comes as no secret that I thought Game Show Marathon was, as the kids say these days, very mid. Overall, I'm not a fan. I think there were many ways that it could have done better, and the only reason why I'm saying that it's mid is because there are certain things that occur on each of the individual shows that give it a redemptive saving grace. If it wasn't for some of the contestants themselves, and for them at least getting Rich Fields to come in and announce, I'd probably be rating all of these in the 0 to 3 scale.
I have 3 words that describe tonight's episode that we've just covered. Brandy, Roderick, Cave Woman.
I am not the biggest fan of Game Show Marathon.
Well, you'll have a chance to bash it more next week, I promise.
Oh, trust me. You wait till we're done with this in 5 weeks now? 6 weeks?
6. We still got 5 more shows and a wrap-up.
Oh, and next week we get to talk about one of my personal favorites and beat the clock. Oh, this gonna be fun.
And the stepping on people's toes continues. Mr. Watkins, if you don't mind. Indeed. That's going to wrap us up for Let's Make a Deal for Game Show Marathon, the second of the 7 shows associated with the GSM. We will continue with week 3, or day 3, I guess technically. Week 3 for us here on Life is Like a Game Show.
3. It was because didn't they
Wednesdays?
Wasn't this I was going to say this was like a.
Was it not an every day of the week thing? I thought this was a Monday through Friday setup, or was it just one?
May 31st to June 29th.
So maybe twice a week or something. Well, they're not going to fit it in on Wednesdays unless they air multiple episodes on a certain Wednesday.
Yeah, because you're talking, twice 2, 4, 6, 7, or something to that effect.
We'll do the math later.
We will. We'll look it up and we'll find the actual air dates for each of these shows for you guys next week here on Life is Like a Game Show. So, as I was about to say, we will continue our sojourn through Game Show Marathon next week.
It was done literally. Sorry, it took me a moment to look at the calendar. Don't mean to cut you off, Harry. It was literally done 5 weeks in a day. They started on, ironically, May 31st, which was a Wednesday, and ended on June 29th, which was a Thursday.
So maybe twice a week for those 4 weeks?
So with 7 episodes, I'm imagining it was probably in 5 weeks. There was probably an intro episode. There was probably 2 episodes on the first week, 2 episodes on the last week, and weekly otherwise.
I do specifically remember hearing George Ead saying, "Stay tuned for CSI next here on CBS."
Not to mention with the other episode, the air date was June 1st. So that actually checks out. To the first week, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then your semifinals and finals to end the month of June.
There you go. We continue our sojourn next week here on Life is Like a Game Show as we go to the classic stunt show, Beat the Clock. Your host is still Ricki Lake. Your announcer is still Rich Fields.
Yay.
Brandy Roderick and Lance Bass sit this one out. Kathy and Jimmy may or may not participate? Question mark? We'll have to see what happens.
We got something for this.
We do have something. I'll be here. They'll be here. Hopefully you'll be here too. I'm at HEB the Eagle on Twitter. He is at Squid Sports Head. He is at the Andesian. That is at JTN 2002. And we are Life is Like a Game Show, a presentation of the Not to Network Podcast Network. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll talk to you guys next week as we continue Game Show Marathon. Have a good one, everyone. See you in 7.